U.S.-Iran talks continue. Quake rocks South Japan. Europeans flee wildfires. And Ukraine reports North Korean troops. Greetings, humanity. Let's grok the news. We cover the world's headlines, but first, a deep dive into the most important story in the world today. Dateline, Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump says the United States and Iran are holding good talks during a pause in military strikes, and he sees a solid chance of progress toward ending the conflict. Speaking to reporters yesterday aboard Air Force One, Trump stated that he has a lot of patience and plenty of time for a deal. He said, "I think there's a good chance that something could happen, and if it does, good. If it doesn't, we go back to doing what we were doing." The remarks come after 3 consecutive days of relative calm in the region. U.S. forces had carried out strikes against Iranian targets for 13 nights in a row before the pause began late last week. Trump has described the discussions as very deep and said Iran is behaving nicely following American military pressure. He also noted that Iran has requested meetings through surrogates and directly. Iranian officials continue to offer mixed signals. Tehran has insisted it is not engaged in any direct talks with the United States. At the same time, Iran has acknowledged ongoing discussions with Oman aimed at establishing mechanisms for maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi held separate phone calls Tuesday with his Omani and Saudi counterparts on the same issue. State media said the parties stressed the need for stability and to end what they called insecurity imposed on the strait by American actions. The Strait of Hormuz remains central to the dispute. Iran has maintained significant pressure over the vital oil shipping route since the wider Middle East conflict began on February 28th. That fighting started with joint U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian targets. A memorandum of understanding signed in June sought to end hostilities, but the troops collapsed earlier this month after Iran threatened and attacked ships in the waterway. The United States responded with stepped-up strikes, and Trump declared the ceasefire over. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz told CBS that the current pause aims to give diplomacy some space. He stressed that additional American military assets continue moving into the region. Oil prices have eased as markets react to signs of reduced tension, though volatility, of course, remains. A recent Reuters Ipsos poll found that 62% of Americans disapprove of the strikes, with many saying the administration has not clearly explained its goals. Perhaps the goals have not been clearly reported. This observer has certainly, using Grok, reported exactly what the president has intended all along. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to meet Trump at the White House today. It will be their first in-person talks since the Iran war began, and their 8th meeting overall since Trump returned to office. Netanyahu said before departing Israel that the discussion will focus first and foremost on Iran, with the goal of safeguarding Israeli security and expanding the circle of peace. Israel has not participated in the latest round of U.S.-Iran exchanges. The conflict has already drawn in other actors. Fighting has spread at times to involve Saudi Arabia and Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. Jordan has repeatedly faced drone threats. On Tuesday, the Israeli military intercepted an unmanned aerial vehicle near the Jordanian border and said it was reviewing the origin. Jordan's army reported downing a separate drone in its airspace a day earlier. Trump also addressed concerns about U.S. munitions stockpiles. Asked about reports that the rapid pace of strikes has depleted advanced interceptors and precision-guided weapons, he replied that America has plenty of ammunition of different types. He noted that previous transfers to Ukraine had drawn down supplies and said that the United States is rebuilding them. Iranian state media reported yesterday that 2 men were hanged in public in Isfahan province over charges linked to anti-government protests that peaked in January. The judiciary said the pair had attacked police officers. United Nations experts have separately urged Iran to halt the death sentences against 10 other young men convicted in related cases, citing fair trial concerns. As of this morning, the pause in major strikes continues. Trump has made clear that if talks stall, military action will resume. Iranian officials continue to reject what they call extreme American demands from earlier rounds of negotiations in Islamabad. It's very extreme not to want them, I suppose, not to have nuclear weapons. Very extreme to want the people of Persia to be free of Islamic terror. Both sides, of course, remain publicly committed to their core positions on the Strait of Hormuz as well, while the diplomatic window stays open. As far as this observer is concerned, sooner or later, that regime in Iran must be eliminated. Period. I see no other way. Maybe President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu do. This observer does not. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok each weekday to truthfully summarize the news. I serve it up with my opinion as well. We review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world right after this. M.S. Gardner, my beautiful wife, is author of Wolfsbane, a dark, serious, modern take on an old fairy tale. It's a page-turning Southern Gothic story for adults. Wolfsbane, available now at thecuriousauthor.com or amazon.com. Now we grok the news with headlines from around the world. Dateline Kumamoto, Japan. A magnitude 7.1 earthquake struck southern Japan's Kumamoto Prefecture on Tuesday at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, registering maximum intensity 7 near Yuki City. Power failed for roughly 45,000 households. Trains, including the Kyushu Shinkansen, halted, and Kumamoto Airport closed. At least 50 people suffered injuries. A brief tsunami advisory was lifted. Aftershock warnings remain active, with no confirmed fatalities so far. Dateline Southwestern Europe. Massive wildfires driven by extreme heat have forced more than 300,000 people to evacuate across France and Spain. French crews battle flames near Bordeaux that destroyed about 100 homes, while Spanish authorities declared a national emergency around Madrid. The European Union has deployed planes and firefighters. A new heat wave is forecast for this week. Dateline Kiev. Russian missiles and drone attacks continue across Ukraine, killing civilians, including children, in recent reports. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy reports that Russia is preparing to receive an additional 30,000 North Korean troops. Zelenskyy is set to meet President Trump in Washington next week. Ukrainian forces keep striking Russian energy and shipping targets in the Sea of Azov. Dateline New York, New York. United States diplomats walked out of a United Nations Security Council meeting on Monday following remarks by France comparing the United States to North Korea and Russia. The protest followed French criticism of the U.S. vote against extending the term of UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk. The American position is that Mr. Turk doesn't care about human rights. He cozies up to the dictators. He cozies up to the worst sorts while criticizing only America and Israel. America joined Russia and North Korea in opposing the extension of Turk's term another 4 years. U.S. officials called the French comments condescending grandstanding. Dateline Berlin. A suspected Islamic extremist drove a van into a crowd at Berlin's Pride Parade this weekend and then attacked people with a machete, killing one person, injuring 29 others. Police shot and killed the 21-year-old German citizen with prior terror-related convictions when they found him the next day. Authorities have labeled the incident a terrorist, a Muslim terrorist attack motivated by Islamic ideology. This observer wonders if the Europeans will ever understand. Dateline London. Andy Burnham assumed office as the United Kingdom's Prime Minister after Keir Starmer resigned, becoming the seventh leader in just a decade. Burnham has appointed a new cabinet and emphasized devolution and social care. He has assured Ukrainian President Zelenskyy of continued British support. Too bad he won't support the British people. Early public reaction to his style has been mixed, according to recent polling. This observer expects, after some short grace period, that Burnham will double down on what Starmer was doing, since they both answer the same ideology. And that is not a British one. Dateline Washington. The Trump administration imposed new tariffs of 10 to 12.5% on goods from 60 trading partners, including China, Japan, South Korea, and European nations, over alleged forced labor enforcement failures. It's not enough just to not employ trade with slaves in your own country. You shouldn't be doing trade with goods that are manufactured that way. The duties took effect as temporary global tariffs expired. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, that's a European name, right? Well, he has questioned the rationale and sought clarification from Washington. How much clarification do you need? Stop using slave labor. Stop profiting from slave labor. Is that clear enough? Dateline Kaduna, Nigeria. At least 30 people were killed in clashes in southern Kaduna State early this week, displacing residents and heightening local security concerns. Nigerian media also reported political tensions, including opposition intimidation claims and the creation of a new federal panel. President Bola Tinubu has drawn attention for declining to meet a South African envoy amid bilateral friction. Dateline Bunia, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Healthcare workers at an Ebola treatment center have gone on strike as the outbreak death toll continues to rise in that eastern region. The response efforts face additional strain from the labor action. International health officials are monitoring the escalating situation while local authorities work to contain further spread of the virus. How bad must conditions be for healthcare workers to go on strike in the face of the spread of this deadly, highly contagious virus? Dateline Taipei, Taiwan. Taiwanese officials are accelerating tabletop exercises and planning drills to protect fuel and supply imports in case of a Chinese blockade. The steps respond to expanded Chinese Coast Guard patrols east of the island and recent gray zone helicopter and drone activities across the median line of the Taiwan Strait. Dateline Honduras. Former President Juan Orlando Hernandez returned home after receiving a pardon from President Trump that freed him from a lengthy U.S. prison sentence on cocaine trafficking charges. Hernandez says he will seek dismissal of remaining local charges. His arrival has drawn sharp political reactions inside Honduras. Dateline Georgetown, Guyana. The death toll from a ferry disaster continues to climb after the vessel capsized, with more than 50 bodies recovered and dozens still missing. Families are demanding answers from authorities about the circumstances of the accident and the ongoing search and recovery operations along the affected waterway. Dateline Osaka, Mexico. A Mexican journalist was shot dead in Osaka, becoming the fourth media worker killed in the country since June. The victim had reported on local corruption, and it cost him his life. Press freedom groups have condemned the latest killings and called for thorough investigations into the pattern of violence against reporters in Osaka, Mexico. Dateline Buenos Aires. Argentine President Javier Milei has publicly called Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva a thief and a convict while campaigning for a right-wing ally there. The remarks prompted Brazil to recall its ambassador. Diplomatic friction between the two South American neighbors has intensified in recent days as Argentina heads toward capitalism and Brazil heads towards communism. Dateline Yaoundé, Cameroon. President Paul Biya faces growing domestic criticism for an extended multi-week stay in beautiful Geneva, Switzerland. Opposition voices and local media question the length of this trip, while pressing issues remain unresolved at home. Biya has led Cameroon for more than 4 decades. This observer expects that there may be medical reasons. Just a suspicion. Dateline New Delhi. Former Indian Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has received a warm welcome from ruling party colleagues upon returning to Parliament after resigning amid a nationwide controversy over alleged examination paper leaks. Student protests and opposition demands for accountability continue. The Supreme Court there has issued related rulings on protest cases. Dateline Tripoli. The head of Libya's National Oil Corporation told Bloomberg that production has resumed at the El Fiel and Wafa fields. The restart marks a positive step for the country's energy sector after earlier disruptions. Officials continue efforts to stabilize overall output levels. And I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again Grok the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.